And then AC unit, main condenser is just a little unlevel. So that's something you guys can also fix yourselves. There's literally nothing holding this down. It's just gravity glue holding it in place. So all you have to do is kind of lift it up from the pad and wedge something underneath it just to keep it a little bit more level. That'll just make it last a little bit longer. If the thing's unlevel, the bearings wear out on one side. So good preventative maintenance. And then up in the attic space below your evaporative coil, we did see a bunch of water staining. This is an older system, so it doesn't have another leak pan below the evaporative coil. It has an internal leak pan, which catches the condensation, but in modern construction, when we put them in attics, we put a secondary below that. Because redundancy is key. You want to know if your system's leaking when it shuts off, not when it floods your ceiling. So, but that is something that is a little harder to retrofit. Most people take care of it when they go through the next HVAC replacement. All right, and then we just have all of our glamour shots. That's it. That's the property in one big old nutshell. So in the grand scheme of things, very straightforward. Most of what I see here is literally just old house stuff. So there's a few things to be mindful of. I think one of my main concerns is that drain line for the laundry, because I think that's going to be a fairly immediate pain point for you guys. So I would like to see that resolved, as well as some other preventative maintenance for the plumbing system. Things like, loose hose bibs, loose vanities for the bathrooms. I'd love to see some of these shark bite fittings replaced. Most importantly, I'd love to see a pressure regulator installed in the house, because that's going to be your second pain point. But I think beyond that, a couple of simple things with the water heater. Get a rain cap on the flue pipe, and honestly, most of the rest of it I would probably leave until you go through the next water heater replacement. But plumbing system is going to be my main category of concern. Next up, I would try to get some answers from the seller about the scope of the foundation work that was done. If there's any warranty on that, you might see if you can maybe get that leftover crack repaired via warranty. Otherwise, I would leave it the way that it is, because it's going to look the same way in 10 years if I came back and looked at it. But as a homeowner, or home inspector, I have to recommend it gets repaired. But it would be good to have that conversation about those piers as well, because that is something that was done as part of that scope of work, and it is causing issues. And if it's only a few years old, in 10 years, it's going to look much worse. So if we can get that taken care of, that would be ideal. The rest of the foundation I was pleasantly surprised with. Again, there was pretty extensive foundation damage beforehand, but now there's extensive foundation repair. Repair is much better than damage. So, and then the other question for the seller would be in regards to the roof covering. It would be good just to get any information you can on that. But again, I suspect the roofing is probably in the neighborhood of 10 to 15 years old. If it's only 5 years old, we need to have a conversation. So it's still very serviceable, but if it's only 5 years old, it's aging extremely poorly, and we want to know why.
Carla said the roof is older than the solar.
I guess
for sure. She said that.
Okay. Perfect. Yeah. So we
can re-verify it with her. Yeah.
Yeah, I would agree with that as well. If the roof is 15 years old, then it's right.
It should be on the disclosure forms. There's an age.
I'm searching for it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, when you're buying a house, you get bombarded with emails, and it gets buried real quick. So, but yeah, I think with a little bit of tune-up work, you could probably get another 10 to 15 years of service life out of the roof covering, as long as you're doing some preemptive maintenance on it. But yeah, I think beyond that, everything else, I think you've already got checked out. So I'll get the report finished up this evening, and I'll shoot it off to you first thing in the morning. And any questions come up from there, just let me know. But in the meantime, any questions or concerns for me at all?
I have a quick question. I know this isn't your job at all, but if you had the situation with the drywall directly going onto the foundation, do you have any thoughts on how you might approach that?
I think that you're probably going to fix one issue with another. Again, I think if we can mitigate moisture in the crawl space, that's going to help out a lot.
Okay.
But I also think that those particular portions should be exposed concrete.
Okay.
If it were
So it breathes.
Yeah, if it were me, I would just take the drywall off of that portion of the wall and finish it up into that. If you put another surface that's decomposable like drywall over top of it, you're going to have the same issue every time it rains. So
Makes sense.
yeah, if it were me, I would expose the concrete. Even putting like wood paneling or something would probably hold up substantially better, but if you kept it exposed, it's going to dry out a lot quicker. But if you expose the concrete stings like dirt. It's going to have a little bit more of an earthy aroma in that room. So you can also do things like epoxy sealant and things like that to help combat both the moisture moisture and any odors that would ensue. But that's probably what I would do with that room.
So, just so I understand what happened, that's exterior wall and they put drywall over it?
Yeah, so originally your house was like a U shape hugging that courtyard, and they filled the U with that enclosed patio. So, yeah, where it used to be exterior wall, the bottom like 18 inches of that lower level is all concrete foundation wall on the other side of that drywall. So, because they wanted a like uniform finished look, they ran the drywall all the way down to the floor, and they went from a wooden stud, which is perfectly fine, to concrete, which is not so great.
It'd be like taking this room and dropping it all the way to the dirt and expecting there to be no consequence of moisture coming onto the walls.
Yeah,
You
I
know,
was
it's
just like,
just
well,
a
if you took the
conduit.
drywall off, then is it just the old exterior?
It's probably going to look like a stucco house.
If even that, I would bet that they're probably, well, they might have pulled the stucco off. If you take like a flashlight.
Could you vent it? Could you just like, honestly, this sounds stupid, but is there a way to like just throw a couple of little air circulation vents so that this humidity from the whatever could like kind of dissipate better?
You would create an issue trying to fix an issue. If you
Yeah,
put-
of course.
If
Like
you-
all my great ideas.
Yeah, if you put a vent from inside to out, you're going to vacuum all your heat and air conditioning out of the house. If you put it
Okay.
from outside to in,
See?
you're going to be venting the dirty crawl space dank directly into your living space.
Well, I also thought of, is there a way to better ventilate the crawl space and just, you
So
know,
that is also something that would typically be advised if, like, if you had someone like a crawl space specialist that was coming out here to try to fix the moisture issues for you. They're going to sell you three things: subsurface drainage, power ventilation fans, and probably what's called a sump pump. They dig down a hole and put a pump in there to collect water and eject it.
some
that's an
pump
okay
sounds overkill, I guess, right?
Well, sump pumps they're a decent option. The issue with sump pumps though is that they require a certain amount of water for them to actuate, and when you have so much clay in the soil, the water doesn't necessarily pool, it just absorbs and holds on. So it's really hard to get the water out of the dirt and direct it to one spot so you can eject it.
But I mean, air movement in the crawl
Air
space would be
movement
very
would
beneficial.
Okay.
Yeah, so
Right.
power ventilation is probably my next favorite solution next to gutters on the house. That's
Okay.
probably my next favorite means of controlling moisture in the home. Followed by subsurface drainage and hardscape, but that's a whole different price point.
Okay.
Yep. So
Okay.
I always say do what's cheapest first, and then make minor adjustments until it's resolved.
Okay. Well, it all comes back to gutters as the first thing you do to get water to stop being around the house to begin with, and then you move to phase two if you have to. I mean, and it'd be nice to be able to measure the moisture before you do the gutters. You know, like an annual moisture check or moisture reading or something.
Yeah, I mean, you could always go that route, but the idea is you don't want to be maintaining moisture level, you want to be eliminating the moisture.
No, I know, but you'd have to know where your starting point is if
Sure.
you're going to move to gutters and then you notice no changes in anything.
Mhm.
Maybe the gutters aren't like
Correcting
going to
the issue.
fix your issue, is
Yeah.
what I'm saying. And then you have to move to ventilation. Or
Yeah, my main concern with that in the immediate present is we've had very little rain and we're getting ready to roll into the rainy season. And enclosed patios are notorious for water penetration in the exact spot that yours are having water penetration. So that's my main concern is when we get to, February, March, April, what is the water level gonna look like? I don't want you guys to, be surprised if you get heavy rain and there's water on the floor or something like that.
They did
So-
mention that the water will pool.
Oh, did they? In that room? Yeah.
And we've had a
That was-
very dry last 6 months.
Yep.
So, or whatever, 9 months. There's
Very
been
dry.
no water coming anywhere.
That's what has me concerned is that I have that high of moisture levels. We've hardly had any rain this year. What that's going to look like in a couple of months. So definitely something that we want to try to combat before that.
I've been like recording this ever since we hung up with Carla.
Yeah.
Is that okay with you?
Unacceptable.
No, because I realized like I wanted her to hear everything,
For
and
sure.
so she has the rest of the summary. I can send her
Yeah.
this. Okay.
Honestly, any more of this day and age are just as human being recorded all the time.
Is that
so-
okay? Is that okay with you?
Yeah.
Because I just didn't want to have any gaps in the whatever. Okay. All right. Thanks.
Pacific Crest Home.